Hello everyone, it's Rose Thorne and I'm back with another poetry book review. This time I'm doing a review on a book on a person that I came to know of quite a while ago. I was on YouTube and just browsing around for different spoken poetry videos, and I happened to come across one that really knocked me out and really made an impression. And it was a spoken poetry video with a poet by the name of Jeanann Verlee. I watched the video for her poem 40 Love Letters and was just, again, I was just knocked out, absolutely knocked out. For anyone who knows me, you know that I'm a big fan of beatnik poetry, visceral poetry. I'm not really a fan of poetry that's all flowery and it sounds way too sweet. That's not the world that I grew up in, so I tend to gravitate to poems that are very real, very stark, painful, emotional, vulnerable, just real life stuff. And when I saw Jeanann on YouTube and I saw her poem for 40 Love Letters and I listened to her, I became acutely aware of the fact that not only was I listening to a great spoken poem, but it was done by someone who was a great performer, because she delivered that poem perfectly. Absolutely flawless. Her delivery was spot on. And I became very interested in her as a poet, as a performer, and I searched out more of her stuff on YouTube, and I liked everything. You know, sometimes when you like poetry, sometimes the poet that you're liking, you don't like all of their stuff. And with her, I do like all of her stuff, because as someone that I've been through a difficult life, I relate to a lot of things that she's saying. It resonates with me. So I instantly connected to a lot of things that she was saying in her poetry. So I liked everything that I heard on YouTube of hers, all of her spoken poetry, and it made an impression enough that I actually bought 2 of her books. And one of them is called Racing Hummingbirds. If you're someone and you're wondering, should I get that book? Absolutely. It's going to be one of those books that you spend money on, and you're not going to be sorry you spent money on it, because it's just, not only is it a great book of poetry, it's going to leave an impression. If you are a poet and a writer, it's going to open you up and make you just feel the creative juices are going to come, and you're going to want to write something. I guarantee you, as soon as you get through reading this entire book, you're going to want to write something down. It's just going to open up all the doors inside of you. So for those that are not familiar with Jeanann and her style of writing, I have earmarked a few poems of hers in this book, and I'd like to read them to you, including the one, 40 Love Letters, that I watched on YouTube and knocked me out enough to go out and search out more of her stuff. So this is the poem called 40 Love Letters. Dear Dennis, I still think of you. Dear Andre, I saw you kiss her. I haven't looked back. Dear Patrick, you're just too young. Dear Eric, I said horrible things about you. Your teeth are fine. It's the rest of you I don't like. Dear Greg, thank you for the poem, for every single scar. Dear William, I love you. Simple. I like that we will never be we. Dear Jay, the bruises fell off eventually. Dear Michael, I'll never be enough to fill the shoes that will one day stand at your side. Dear Ben, I did read your letters, all of them. Dear Freeman, I'll never stop looking over my shoulder, boots laced, ready to run. Dear John, I'll always love you. You are all there ever was. Dear Derek, there was no one thing. Your everything is impossible. Dear Eddie, we are refracting magnets. We will battle this to the end. Dear Dennis, I still think of you. Dear Ryan, Saks Foot under the street light was a delicious accident. Dear Kevin, your kiss came too late. My lips were already dancing in the other room with John. Dear Ethan, no. Dear Joseph, I said you were too pretty. They said to try it anyway. They are fools. Dear Avery, you are the definition of unrequited. Dear Skippy, I'm sorry about the whiskey and the tampon. I'm sorry I never called you. Dear Nate, until you mocked my smile, I was yours. Dear Mark, I like your wife too much. Is your brother still single? Dear Mitch, you were my biggest mistake. I'm sure that only makes your smile more sinister, dear Alan. While you poured Guinness for Patrick, I pictured you bending me over the bar. Dear Graham, I'd have swallowed that bullet. Dear Miguel, you said a man never forgets his first redhead. What color are my eyes? Dear Dennis, I still think of you. Dear Francis, I'd have broken you in half. Dear Chris, I'm sorry I stalked you. I'd try to forget me too. Dear Dex, I can't be with you again. Just accept it. Dear Dr. Matthews, no. I'll have you fired. Again. Dear Aiden, I wrote a poem about you. It's everyone's favorite. I find it trite. Dear Logan, I think I finally stopped wanting you. Dear Cynthia, I was drunk. I thought you were too. Dear Ricky, maybe it was the red dress or because I was 15. Your brother married my mother on the same day I first touched your cock. Maybe you're still a pervert. Call me. Dear Jeff, I was your biggest mistake. Dear Robert, you are more than beer and vomit. You are more than I could ever put into a poem. Dear Dennis, I still think of you. Dear Dennis, I keep your photos in a box, each one still in its frame. Such an amazing, amazing, amazing poem, amazing poet. And this is another one. This one's called Exit Wound. You are an exit wound. You are an exit wound. The extra shot of tequila, the tangled knot of hair that must be cut out. You are the cell phone ringing in a hushed theater, pebble wedged in the sole of a boot, the bloody hangnail. You are just this once. You are flip-flops in a thunderstorm, the boy's lost erection, a pen gone dry. You are my father's nightmare, my mother's mirage. You are a manic high, which is to say you are a bad idea. You are herpes despite the condom. You are, I know better. You are pieces of cork floating in the wine glass. You are the morning after, whose name I can't remember still in my bed. The hole in my rain boots. Vibrator with no batteries. You are, shut up and kiss me. You are naked wearing socks. Mascara bleeding down laughing cheeks. The wrong guy buying me a drink. You are the typo in an otherwise brilliant novel. Sweet talk into unprotected sex. The married co-worker. My stubbed toe. You are not new or uncommon, not brilliant or beautiful. You are a bad idea. Rock star in the backseat of a taxi, burnt popcorn, top shelf at half price. An exit wound. A word I can't translate. A name I cannot say. The poem I cannot write. You are everything I want. So much truth in all of that. The last one I want to read for you guys is called Chime. Sometimes the soy milk sits in the Starbucks refrigerator too long, and when they add it to my latte, once in a while I treat myself to a gaudy latte with trimmings. It collects at the bottom, not unlike cottage cheese. So I ask them to remake it, and I become again that girl. Sometimes people screw up. Sometimes I am the mistake. Sometimes when I look at their boots, covered in my blood, I still try to convince myself that I was kicked by someone else. Sometimes I am just a girl with wounded poems and a bright laugh, who likes cheap beer and pink polka dots, who winces when her friends argue and cannot bring herself to love. Sometimes I lace up damaged like boxing gloves. Sometimes I kick the doors of New York City taxi cabs. Sometimes I curse at pizza shop owners. Sometimes your husband is a wretch and you are misery and wine, becomes your bedmate. Soon then, new lovers, and you polish them with a kindness you didn't know you had, and wash their hairless backs with thick, wet teardrops. Sometimes you fuck your boss or blacken your fist on a moving windshield. Sometimes you take the piece of I. Sometimes you write poems. Sometimes a man behind the computer screen asks you to prove that a Miguel is really Miguel, and that there is still a man in Colorado looking for you with his fists and his hammer claw, and this is why you changed his name in the story. And that Graham's ashes are kept in a copper urn on his mother's mantle, and you've cradled the damn thing in your own hands. Yes, it's all real, sir. Those love letters are mine. Sometimes I delete messages without listening to them. Sometimes I take too long to reply to emails. Sometimes I drink red wine until dawn, then nap, then color champagne with orange juice, just so I can call it breakfast. Sometimes I have nightmares. She comes in the form of a redhead. She has a black mouth, no lungs. Fog spills from her lips. When I'm awake, her name is Mother. This is a picture of my scars. I'm proving to you that they are mine. Here, look closer. Once I knocked a neighbor girl into the dirt and kicked her face because she was walking through my yard and it was my yard. Once I closed my cat's tail on the door and I cried for days. Once I screwed up and admitted it and it hurt and they shunned me anyway. Once I was jumped by a pack of skinheads. Once I loved. Once I loved. Once, when I couldn't stop the wind, I broke the chimes. So those were 3 poems by Jeanann. As you can see, her poetry is very visceral, very real. I did a little bit of research about Jeanann. She's a woman that she struggles with being bipolar and manic depressive. And some of her poetry is about her manic depression. And some of her poetry is about things that she's been through. But she's taken all those bad experiences and bad memories and turned it into absolutely brilliant poetry. Absolutely brilliant poetry. I absolutely recommend this book. It is definitely worth the read. It's definitely worth buying. You won't feel like you wasted your money. It's the kind of poetry, like I said, that you're going to get punched in the face, but then afterwards you're going to say thank you. Because it's so real and it's emotional and it's raw and it's vulnerable and it's just instantly connects with you. If you're a poet that you don't like flowery poetry, you like the more visceral stuff, this is definitely up your alley. So I recommend everybody check her out. I'm going to go on YouTube and look for a couple of videos and post them in a description. If you're someone who likes spoken poetry, I'll leave the links in the description to a couple of videos so you can check her out on your own. And if you like it, you can check out other videos and maybe buy some of her books. So that's my review of Jeanann Verlee and her book, Racing Hummingbirds. I hope you guys have enjoyed it. Please take care of yourselves and have a good one.